Welcome to my channel. Before we jump into the video, you can subscribe to my channel, like the video and support me. Thank you in advance. I bet you didn't know the eerie history behind this doll. The old porcelain doll sat perched on a shelf, its glassy eyes staring blankly ahead. It had an air of timelessness, as if it had witnessed countless stories unfold. It had been a gift passed down through generations. Each family member who inherited the doll felt a strange connection to it, a bond that was both comforting and unsettling. Each owner had experienced the same unsettling feeling, a creeping sense of unease that grew stronger with time. They couldn't quite put their finger on it, but the doll seemed to have a life of its own. A creeping sense of unease that lingered in the air, especially at night. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and whispers could be heard in the stillness. The doll's origins were shrouded in mystery. No one knew where it had come from or who had crafted it. The only certainty was that it carried a dark history. Whispers hinted at a tragic accident, a story passed down through hushed conversations. A young girl's life cut short under mysterious circumstances. A young girl's life cut short. Her spirit, they said, now resided within the doll's porcelain shell, forever trapped and seeking solace. Her spirit, they said, now resided within the doll's porcelain shell. The doll became a vessel for her restless soul, a conduit for her lingering presence. The family who now possessed the doll had dismissed the stories as folklore. They believed it was just an old toy, a relic of the past with no real power. It was just an old toy, they thought, nothing to be feared. How wrong they were. They would soon learn that some legends are rooted in truth. They would soon learn that some legends are rooted in truth. On a stormy night, the doll's true nature would reveal itself, bringing with it a wave of terror. And this doll was a vessel of something ancient and evil, a malevolent force that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. Doors creaked open in the dead of night as if moved by an unseen hand. Whispers seemed to emanate from the shadows, filling the air with an eerie presence. The family dismissed it as an old house settling, but then things escalated. Objects began to move on their own, defying any logical explanation. The doll, always in the center of the disturbance, seemed to have a life of its own. One evening, the family dog refused to enter the room where the doll was kept. His instincts sensing something amiss, he whimpered at the door, his body trembling with fear. That's when they knew. Something was terribly wrong, something beyond their understanding. This was more than just an old house with creaky floors and drafty windows. Something sinister had taken root, something that defied the natural order and instilled a deep sense of dread. The incidents grew bolder. Footsteps echoed through the hallway at night. A child's laughter, chilling and disembodied, sent shivers down their spines. Sleep became impossible. Fear was a constant companion. One night, the family awoke to find the doll at the foot of their bed. Its glassy eyes seemed to bore into them, filled with a malevolence that chilled them to the core. That's when they decided the doll had to go. They tried to get rid of the doll, throwing it in the trash, even burying it in the backyard. But it always returned. Each time it reappeared, the disturbances grew stronger, more terrifying. They were prisoners in their own home. They sought help from priests, paranormal investigators, anyone who would listen, but no one could explain the hold the doll had over their home. They were desperate. Their sanity was unraveling. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The disturbances ceased. The eerie silence that followed was almost more unsettling than the chaos that had preceded it. The family, who had been living in constant fear, could hardly believe the sudden calm. They cautiously stepped out of their rooms, looking around as if expecting the disturbances to start again at any moment. The doll remained eerily still on the shelf. Its glassy eyes seemed to follow them, but it did not move. The family had grown accustomed to its unsettling presence, yet they could never shake off the feeling of being watched. Had it finally moved on? Had their nightmare ended? They whispered these questions to each other, afraid to speak too loudly, as if the sound of their voices might break the fragile peace that had settled over their home. Relief washed over them, but it was a fragile peace. They tried to return to their normal lives, but the memory of the disturbances lingered. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind made them jump. One day a letter arrived. It was unexpected and brought a sense of foreboding. The family gathered around as they opened it, their hearts pounding in their chests. It was from the antique shop where the doll had been purchased. The letter was old-fashioned, with a wax seal and elegant handwriting, adding to the sense of mystery. The letter explained that the doll had been switched, a mix-up. The shop apologized for the error and explained that the doll they had was not the one they had intended to sell. They were delivering the correct one and retrieving theirs. The family was confused and anxious. What did this mean for them? Would the disturbances start again? The family stared at the letter, then at the doll on the shelf. The realization that they had been living with the wrong doll all this time was terrifying. A horrifying realization dawned on them. The disturbances, the fear, the sleepless nights, all because of a simple mix-up. They had the wrong doll all along. The true nature of the doll they had been living with was unknown, and the thought of what might come next filled them with dread. Welcome to my channel. Before we jump into the video, you can subscribe to my channel, like the video, and support me. Thank you in advance.